Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and as promised, here we are, the Gal Pal Posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flameno Rush. I'm hitting the live button as we speak.
Yay, welcome friends.
We're going to be live. We're going to be animated.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And I have to tell you, BZ, I don't know if, I'm sure you probably were not able to catch it because you're coming in from doing your morning chores, I'm sure, but I went live to tell everybody I was going to go live with you guys. So this is, we actually...
That was really fun too.
That's an example of being live, you know?
I caught some of it, not all of it, but.
Did you? Okay.
No.
Well, because it was a really interesting live too. So you might want to go back and check it out because there's something really interesting happening with me. And it does have to do with our topic here. Embrace your true colors as they shine forth. You are a piece of the absolute data reveal. Oh my God. Yes. Busy. I couldn't. When I got that from you this morning, because as I said in my live, I texted, I knew we were going to meet today, but I didn't know if we were going to go live or record. And BZ, when she said, well, let's do live, and here's a title, a topic, I was like, my mouth just went, because it's an energetic that I've been noticing and feeling, and it's like it's been coming clearer and clearer and clearer for me personally. And I see it coming through multiple individuals through their own individually unique perception filters. And it is so gorgeous and so cool for me personally to see, sense, and feel it in that specific way, knowing that each one of us singular perspectives holds something so unique that is desired, being searched for by all beings, whether we know it or not, feel it or not, get it or not. That's why we feel drawn to certain people. It's and it's just so delicious. I did a real quick card draw for the collective in my live right before we came that pulled that same exact energetic in too. So thank you for pulling this exact conversation forth.
Yeah, can I say something?
Absolutely.
I feel like
please.
I really am feeling what you're talking about there with the unity piece. It feels like all the flames, right, are burning so brightly that it's become one campfire.
Yes.
Right? Because it's unity. Each perspective. And I was seeing it as I've been sitting out here with a bird for so long. And what I've noticed is that each birdie has a song. And then sometimes the same birdies will chirp back and forth at each other. And then you've got this other kind of birdie, and his song is slightly different, but his song. And then they are, and I realize I am marveling at the symphony of life, of life, that is all around me, constantly singing to me their song. And I saw us as also being those birdies that are singing our song. And we're creating this most gorgeous symphony. When you just sit still and take it in and enjoy it and be grateful for it. So thank you, BZ, for your recent conversation too, because boy, what a birdie song that was that filled up my heart, because I think everybody's voice now is strong and clear, and I feel like they're welcomed too. They're received well, our birdie song.
You talking about the one with Jeannie last night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
I will link. Of course, there will always be a link to BZ's channel, a direct link to the channel itself, because I've got it now where it automatically appears BZ in every upload. But I will link that video specifically, which private joke between Lisa and I this morning, I have not yet had the opportunity to see said video.
Okay,
But
well, I haven't seen the whole thing because I had this appointment at noon, but I fully intend to catch up with it.
Yeah, I was just saying, we'll discuss that later.
There's two things I wanted to say to what you were both talking about. One is someone asked, Sheila, could you read the title again?
Sure, because I think it's very important. Because I could only get part of the title in for our live here, because I've been trying to, right, only the first part of the title would fit in there.
Well, let's hear the whole thing.
Embrace your true colors as they shine forth. You, and I did in my mind, you is all caps.
Yeah.
You are a piece of the absolute data reveal.
Yeah.
And I could not agree more, which is exactly why I feel, for me, and always a part of my own, what I'm revealing to me, is that that's why it's important to just allow all of these puzzle pieces, which is what each one of you actually are for me. You carry puzzle pieces, and you carry codes, and you carry that data within your field that helps to inform my field. And as I open myself to seeing all of me, just all of me, unabashedly, unmasked also, if you will, completely naked and just standing bare, I'm starting to
naked and not freaked out.
Yeah, naked and not freaked out. That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right.
That's a thing.
Yes, it is a thing. It is a thing. It is absolutely a big. But honestly, it couldn't be more delicious. For me. And I wanted to say a quick thing here before I forget. It is also not lost on me that today is. I'm gonna get emotional here. This is Conscious Conversation Central's birthday anniversary. And to be with my Gal Pal Posse live today on this topic,
No coincidences.
No coincidences at all.
So the other thing I wanted to say, that aside from the person conveying the person's request to read it again, is that you were talking about, it's important that people are doing, well, it's beyond that. It's essential. It's in the whole frequency and energetic dance of this unwinding and unbinding, which is not only the systems on this planet, but all systems. It's not, there's a propensity to think of it, well, it's just the humans and they're a little slow and they're getting it going now. And it's not. It's changes everything in all of Source's multiverses. So every being's role is essential. It's not important. It's essential. It's part of that piece. And as you're letting your true colors, they are shining forth. And so that's why the embracing is there, because they're shining. It's not like you can choose to turn them off or on anymore. They're coming forth. And it's part of that data reveal, because there's a syncopation, there's not sure of the right word. There's a toning would be the best word that goes on between as each color shines forth, whether it's something that someone smiles or says or does or creates or finds or interacts with or walks past, or, you know, don't limit oneself, because someone may think, well, I don't know what to do, I'm not doing anything. Well, you're alive and you are being in a certain way right this moment, even if that happens to be, you know, uncertain or a little grumpy or super happy and thinking, well, I don't know about all this stuff that's going on in the world, but I'm just going to be super happy today. All of those are the points and the moments that you're highlighting, and they each go together with everything else. It's, talk about live, it's a live, organic, continually morphing and transforming and evolving piece that we actually have done so beautifully in letting our colors shine forth that, and this is a linear way to describe it because it's not wholly accurate in the multidimensional sense, but we've done it so well. We've stepped forward so well and so fully and let our colors shine and embrace them. And now we're doing it more consciously, that we're further along, more expanded along than the plan was. Does that make sense? You know, those are placeholder words, but you know, if things were linear, you know, so this happens, then this happens, then this happens, right? And so there was a plan, right? And we were unfolding the plan. Now there's a plan, so the plan starts, and then the plan supposedly ends, and then it's done, right? If you think of it linear.
Yeah.
So as each being is consciously and unconsciously, more and more and more and more consciously now, unfolding that piece, embracing that piece of them, stepping in, stepping up fully in that piece, and beginning to have an inner knowing and a remembering of just how essential and integral and important that the role that you're playing is. Even if, again, it's why it's kind of a linear description, because a lot of linear brains are going, well, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
You are, because you're all part of it, right? So because it's been done so beautifully and so masterfully to this point, we've had to rewrite the plan a bazillion times, because if the plan was linear, right, we start here, we do this, and here's the plan. Okay, well, now we just change the ending of the plan and change the ending, because the ending of the plan is this big, got this big, and this big, and this big, and this big. That's what I'm saying. That so not only is it are we essential to it, but the very nature of embracing our colors that are shining forth changes the plan, expands the plan.
Well, I have a bit of a perception and on that.
Okay.
And I mean, I know it to be so for me, as I have now experienced what I'm about to say. However, I'm going to phrase it as a what if to those who will poo-poo my experience, because there will be those who will poo-poo my experience. So, what if following only what one's heart's desire and passion and drive to do is one's mission? You know, the what I'm supposed to do. And out of fear, and it doesn't even matter what kind of fear, whether fear of what people will say, fear of how it's going to look, fear of not having enough of this or not doing, whatever the fear is. And again, I'm speaking on experience here, only just my experience, and putting it to all as a what if. And by allowing that fear to constrict me, honestly, what if that is what causes all the changes that have to be made to the plan? Because it's really event driven, number one. And number two, I because I've seen it so many times with all of us, with myself, stepping up to the line, ready to go, got it, know what I'm supposed to do, getting a good look at, and then anybody else with me? Maybe, maybe not. Oops. And run like hell back the other way. Well, at that point, there's larger beings, myself included, going, okay, that plan failed. Whoop, whoop, got to get this guy over here. You need another. I'm sorry, but that's the way I have seen it for myself, with my own self, about myself. And I'm just saying, what if what I'm saying to you about my own experience is true? Boy, that too brings a whole new outline to data reveal, and whether or not the plan is taking too long or whatever, in your own.
I mean, it's both sides of that. It's, so they mirror each other because they're frequential vibrations, right? So one, right, is a field over here, where you cross a couple fields together. So you're running across, yay, I'm ready, I'm all in, I'm standing up, I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
Where is everybody, right? Now you're over here in this field.
Yep.
So the energetic is, and you're right, because there is a plan, and we are all moving forward in it, and we're all integral. So if there's a whole bunch of us who run up to the thing and we never stop, there's no pause, we just keep right on going, and that part was supposed to have, this many beings, and only this many beings, well, then these beings have to work a lot harder, right? And again, it's not time driven, it's event driven. So, but it works both ways. So the same can be said in changing in some of those beings, going, wait a minute, looking around, or however they're doing it. It's also changing because, so there was, I don't know the right tactical terms, but so there was a breach of the lines, and they came through, and there was a big thrust, which was narrower, more finely pointed thrust, because there was less breadth to some extent of that, right? Mm-hmm. But that shifted how that went through. So maybe it was a more pointed thing, a more focused thing, just making linear words to go with. And then all these others there was more actual building of their expansion, of their cleaning and clearing, whatever they got to the line, using your example, they got to the line and they went off in their different ways, and they then had more expansion, more morphing, more integrating, more various things that came up. So now as they individually or collectively in their own group, different groups that they now are crossing this line that we're talking about in the example, right? They've added a new weight, a new breadth, a new depth to their thrust that they went through in doing it. So it happened, you can hold it both ways, and since it's multidimensional, there's a whole lot of
more than that.
Both ways squared infinitum.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's not a thing of, well, I didn't do that, so I failed, or I this, or I that. No, it's not.
Nope.
I mean, there is something to that, because there is a reaction. There is things that come forward. There are things that flow from that. Yes, but again, that's part of that you are the piece of absolute data, because it lets you know it's not a polarized thing. It's not a right or a wrong thing, because where you're stepping in the field that you're fully playing on is a multidimensional field. So it's this and 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 this.
Yes, and I heard someone that has been present for my last live, which took place just prior to this live. I heard a question. So one of you, and you don't even necessarily have to be present now. There's only 5 folks watching. Only Avelia has said hello to us, and I want the 2 of you to know that Katie Hasso is in the house.
Katie, my love. Hugs and squeezes.
I know, right? We miss Katie in North Carolina.
Yes.
But
We'll catch up soon, huh?
Yes. Well, yes, we will, because and it really pertains to this particular conversation for me anyway. But I hear someone asking the question, because I actually just said in my last live, right? I also recognize, and the reason I'm agreeing with you, BZ, is because it's this and this and this and this. Meaning this is where, because I know that a lot of folks have trouble with the idea of, well, wait a minute, you're talking about you have free will. Well, yeah, the little me does have complete and total free will. Free will, I get to choose. I get to choose in every moment how I am handling this incarnation, this physicality, and everything that has to do with it. The little me gets to choose. This is the way I see it. And what I said earlier was what I did before a mistake when I stepped up to the line and couldn't see or whatever and chose to go back? And I say no, because again, the larger part of me sees and knows and has, we've kind of talked about this before. I feel, because my own observations, my own noticings, I set all of this up. I set it all up from the very beginning. I can see my own handiwork in my life. When I look back over my life, I can see it so clearly. And I know that there are folks that can look at their life and say, oh, I would have never set that up. And I can see very clearly. And I have not had an easy life. None of us have. You know, I mean, none of us have. There's been trauma all the way around. But I can see my own handiwork. So I also see that all of it is still valuable data, no matter what the little me is choosing in the moment of it. And because I'm eternal, I already know that I'm going to get where I'm meant to go in the end. And I've also seen that my handiwork in that I set it up so that beings that I'm to work with all the time, and they even resemble each other. We've talked about that before. So I wanted to say that what I said before does not completely just now negate what we're speaking on here. It actually dovetails into it, in my view. And I wanted, because that was a question that was asked in my head. Katie just said that she misses us all so much. She wanted us to know. We do need to do a Zoom soon, Katie. So you need to, let us know and we'll hook that up. So I wanted to add that because, again, I when I saw your title this morning for this one particular conversation, it's one that I've seen and sensed and felt coming through a lot of different perspectives of the one through singularities in different individuals, all of us. Mm-hmm. And it just feels so smack on for this moment for me personally.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that might be a little bit helpful for a couple people I've sensed having a question about this is, so what are your true colors that are shining forth? And it's going to be and described and characterized in different ways by different beings. And oftentimes, depending on the amount of heart opening that you have and the expanded consciousness that you hold, you, the individual, would give voice to it in one way, and someone else who can easily hold the neutral point can be with you, connected. It could be physically, it could be not at all connected physically, can explain it, can characterize it in a much broader, more in-depth way, because there aren't as many distortions that are masking your true colors. Does that make sense? So,
well, what I just heard you say in my language, specifically when you speak of distortions that obscure them, for me, that translates into fear. For me.
Yeah, because there's only fear and love. We can call it different things, but
well, I'm just saying that for me specifically, because this, like I said, there's been some things happening for me in just the last 24, not quite 48 hours that put a real fine point on all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Messages from me to me.
Right.
Yes.
As they shine forth through me, from me.
Right. Well, I was going to say this. For me, I am having this experience of, as the light comes in, because I'm holding it this way, that I am the love and the light. That is who I am. And I want to honor that and know that, right? Embody that. That's my I am presence is showing up, and that's light. And because of the light that is increasing, and I can feel it come in. And I told Sheila one day it felt jagged. It felt like triangles, but more like I have a stone. It's not out here with me now, but that's more like a pyramid shape. And the energetics felt pyramid shapey, so they were kind of like getting stuck. I feel like they were trying to move up and down my information superhighway, and it felt like difficulty, so I knew that it was here. And what I did was surrender to it. I just allow myself to accept that this is more light, more data, like I see it like those fiber optic codes, maybe, just are connecting with my information superhighway, and things are opening. And as that happens, there's a flash of light that sometimes causes me to like go, I retract, like I get a little afraid. It's so bright, right? That all of a sudden I see that I'm in a very dusty room. This is very dirty right here. Or like I'll see something I didn't see or notice before because it was a little dimmer, a little darker. My perspective wasn't quite as clear, not as sharp. And that flash came in and I could see things. And sometimes I think I withhold the light, like I want to stop it from coming in all the way because, maybe I don't want to see that particular creature in the corner there. I was perfectly happy when I could see him. And now that I see, sense, and feel him, and he's talking to me. We are conversating. We'll sometimes get stuck right here as I want to go and shut things down. So sometimes
distortions,
so sometimes you can see yourself suddenly and you have a really good giggle. And it helps to allow yourself to see, because that's a thing, just surrendering to being okay with what was. When I couldn't see it, it was all okay. But suddenly that I'm seeing it, it's a big problem for me. And that gave me a moment to sit with that and to let that go. And as that dissolved, my vision gets clearer and clearer. And so I see this as a great opportunity now to just really go through whatever is showing up in my field, whatever is shown to me, because the only control, the only power that I have over any of this is where my attention and focus go, and how I choose to frame what is happening to me, because that decides. And the more that I just choose that I am all that is and allow myself to see, sense, feel, and know what is, the more is revealing itself to me. And it doesn't have to scare me. It can, and then I giggle because it's kind of funny, really. And so I'm really rolling with, look for the humor, Anna. Humor is very elevated. And levity is super important for me when I'm faced with things that look scary. Because in essence, I know they're not. They're just not.
But
and yet,
you actually brought out a really powerful tool. And it's funny, as you were saying that, the video I was watching is, as you're laughing, you've got this quantum jackhammer. That's the laughter, the frequency of the laughter is breaking up, any hard bits of distortion, anything that may be, a little stuck on.
The sharp edges.
Yeah, what's the baked on, burnt on, stuck on grease, or what, there's a commercial, but
the crust.
But the vibrational frequency of laughter,
it acts like the energetic Brillo pad of the universe. That's what that is.
There it is. We're gonna clean this mess up with laughter.
So it really does. It really is a very powerful tool that we have in you. And I don't have any situation where I don't whip it out. The laughter is there. So it could be, I've been in places where there have been horrific things happening, and, I'm busting the gut laughing, because that's how I think, okay, well, if there's any time I need that tool here.
It would be right about now.
Yeah.
Well, I have said many, 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 many times on these conversations that living in community the way Lisa and I do, actually the entire Rush family and I, living in community here, and being conscious with the expansion of our consciousness, being open to seeing all of us in every moment. It actually requires the humor, but it is just, it's so lovely, because I've said before, it's like I live in a sitcom, because it really, we as when you're open to seeing you in all your glory, there's going to be a guffaw here and there, and if there's not, well, okay.
If there's not, you aren't paying close enough attention.
That's right. That's right. That's where, and it's just been so delightful to be able to come from that perspective, I mean, and my I was just reflecting on that this morning again, with this being Conscious Conversation Central's 3rd anniversary, feeling back to, and even thinking about right now, the little introductory video I've got on my channel that I put up there to try to explain what the hell I think I'm doing here, says it all, man. The difference.
We don't
in me
even recognize ourselves on each other.
Not at all.
From 3 years ago.
Totally different person. Totally different.
Well, the same thing with Lisa too. I mean, I know it's really very visible with me because I'm so extroverted, but I have had now, and Lisa's not aware of this because I had a conversation yesterday with a viewer, a friend whom we know, who said they are so glad to see Lisa in a way that they haven't seen before. And
But
so
Lisa's not in the in your opening trailer.
no, that's true.
Okay.
But
No, but like within that same time frame, one of her very first videos is with me in the gazebo. Actually,
I know.
there was no gazebo. I was just in the driveway.
But the way Sheila was discussing it was the trailers. That's why I'm going, well, wait a minute, you're not.
Oh, yeah, thank you. No, I'm not in the trailer.
no, you're not in the trailer, but anyone who has followed this channel for a while, in my view, because I've actually said it to you myself, that you have changed quite a bit in our conversation. And it has to do with the expansion of your consciousness as well.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
In my view.
Oh, I've grown leaps and bounds in this 3 years. I couldn't have done it without you. So.
And I couldn't have done it
and
without
you as well, DZ. We did this.
Yeah,
we're spectacular. There's just no doubt about it.
We are spectacular, damn it.
I'm going to play for a moment with it's not really forming as questions that someone's having, but it's I think it goes back to this piece of not quite seeing that they have colors that shine, or if there are the shiniest of colors, or well, what possibly is the data piece that they have or data points that they have, right? So that doesn't matter so much. What I want to do then is just kind of play. If someone has a routine in their day where they're connecting, we'll say, with social media, because maybe where you are, and the particular governor you have in your state, you can't get out because of the stay-at-homes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so how do you go through that? How do you think for a moment and notice, kind of back in through how do you go to different places online, maybe it's Twitter or different Twitter feeds or Facebook or different things, or if you're looking to pressers, or if you're looking to headlines, maybe there's certain news things like the Epoch Times or John Solomon, Just the News, different things, right? Or CNN, or don't want to leave them out. However you do that, and can you hear and see, sense, and feel how you're approaching it? Are you waiting for something? Are you looking for a particular piece of data that you think is going to let things flow? In other words, are you feeling yourself part of it? This is just a broad question to all. Are you feeling yourself part of it, or are you just trusting the plan, watching the plan, but it's somehow separate than you, that you're not involved in the plan and you're going to get them?
You're the audience.
Well, what's coming through for me when you are saying what you're saying there, and is, I'm sure, a perspective that some may hold, is for me coming through as a frequency or an energetic of, am I part of the plan, or is the plan being done to me? And for me, that's a very huge piece here. And I want to say something else too, BZ, that came in while you were speaking on how to relate how your true colors shine forth as a piece of the data reveal.
Yes.
Okay, so my analogy of a puzzle, if I have a puzzle with pieces of the all that is, okay, each individual piece of the all that is puzzle is each one of you.
Yeah.
Each one of us. And you really, there again, for me, what I'm now finally grokking on a level I can't even clearly define for you in this moment of now, is that just being here is a piece of the all that is puzzle.
Yeah.
And part of my questioning as I began to awaken to the knowing that I am one and yet singular is, okay, well, everybody's got a mission. What's mine? What do I do? I'm not connected, as we all know. I did a lot of that. And I can't get in from the bigger me because it won't tell me what I'm supposed to do. And by just by well, right? You guys just by being that I am a piece of the all that is. That's what I was seeing when you were trying to describe that. And by being all that I want to be, all that I desire to be in every moment of now is my mission. I have now come to know.
Yep. Well, and for me, it's not, oh, sorry.
Go.
It's not any one thing that I'm supposed to do or not supposed to do, or, you know, look, this was a huge transition for me personally. Look, I was a very good little slave. I am not going to lie to you. I was quite obedient just because I reinforced that on my own self. I'm just saying, like to follow rules. I like the order and the clarity. I liked knowing where I stood in the game. Sure, write down the rules of the game for me so I could check it out. Yes, thank you, I will play. And I was just taking what they were saying for the, you know, like, I was looking at the documents, you know, and going, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Not realizing there's, at any rate, I got lost. What was I saying?
You were talking about how you were a good little slave. And
yeah,
no wonder
I
you
was
got lost, because
and that was the hardest part for me to disengage from. It was so sticky. It was in my every thought. It wasn't a thing I needed to do or not do. It was I needed to do everything in a very specific frequency and manner that I wasn't doing. I was externally focused, that everything is outside of me, and my job is to hunt it down and get it and bring it in. And the rules of the game are here. This is how you, this is appropriate hunting. This is what you can purchase with the money and how you, and so I was like, okay, well, as long as I know the rules, I can play. And then I decided that that really was not what I came here to do. Really, this is what I came here to do? Roll around at some hamster wheel for everybody else? So that's my option. No? Okay, so what's the other thing? Well, be independent and be in due as you feel. Well, honey, I didn't know what that meant or what that looked like or what it smelled like or how to behave in that fashion.
My mother's a little slave.
Mom, yeah, and my mom lost all this weight all of a sudden. Well, we used to joke it was, you know, she divorced dad and got skinny. Well, that's kind of what happened there. So, you know, that was the weight that left. At any rate, what she did was found herself. And so I said to her, Mom, how did you do it? Because I was very heavy and only getting heavier at that moment in my life. And, you know, everybody outside of me was trying to fix me from every direction. And I was obedient to every rule of every game that was tossed at me. And I defied physics. For some reason, I just perpetually gained weight instead of losing it. And so when this whole thing, why am I telling this story now? I got lost to where
I know exactly where you're going, and I know why. Let me help you out here. You're talking about that being a good little slave. Mom lost weight and you couldn't.
She said to me, here was how Mom lost the weight. Wait till you hear this. She said, well, I started thinking like a thin person. And I was like, well, that's probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because I did not know what to do with that piece of stuff for even 2 seconds in any helpful manner. And that is the project I have been working on, how to think like a thin person. What I've realized is it's all about me and the thoughts I'm holding. The frequency that I am emitting dictates my life experience. Stop. End of story. That's it. That's all of it right there. Mm-hmm. And so it has taken me, I don't know how many, and I'm still catching pieces of this web occasionally. You got to remove it from in here so that you can be free here to use your focus and attention, because that's how you created this grand life that you're railing at. And I'm speaking to me. I was railing at my weight. I was railing at being a good little slave, because none of that felt delicious. I mean, what karma? Yeah, I won the prize, and it was a booby prize. I'll tell you that. Ding, 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 booby prize alert.
Well, I want to say, Lisa, that something really huge came in for me when you were speaking on how you were a good little slave. Because what I noticed about myself, and you also said very specifically that it's sticky, and and you're still finding, and so what I know for myself, that equates to me as our programming and conditioning, not just to the whole idea of being a slave, although, because even when we start, like we were saying before, when you start waking up, now you're looking around and everybody's got a plan. There's these folks who look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, you teach me. Now I'm looking for somebody new to show me the rules.
Right? No, again, that's the same energetic. It's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Well,
are you doing it from within, looking to yourself, not giving the power to anyone or anything externally? That's the decision we're all faced with.
Yeah, and who are you being? Because that was one of the things that used to stump Sheila a lot. I'd say, well, who's talking? Who said that?
Right.
What do you mean I said that? Or, well, yes, but what frequency of you, what parts of you, because there was different frequencies streaming. And so, who are you choosing to be and to flow with?
And I have to say that only for me personally, and it may not be, I'm absolutely certain that it won't be the same for probably anybody else exactly the way it is for me. And that's another thing that we all really, for me, that plays into this as a unique portion of the all that is. You'll find your own unique way of expansion of your consciousness, which is another reason why you yourself, just as you sit, while you're sitting there right now thinking, oh, I don't, because I'm telling you, that was me looking at the two of these gals going, I don't got what y'all got, so I don't know. I was there. I still am there to a degree, which is why I said, but only by being open and seeing that about myself and being fiercely devoted to me and my consciousness.
Boy, is that ever important.
All about me, finding those deep, dark crevices over in the corner that I'm having conversations with, like Lisa alluded to earlier, is the only way. And that there are no rules for that on any sort of level. There really just aren't.
Well, if there are, they're your own rules, your own guidelines, and you break them all the time because that's the idea, right? Because as you get into your 0 point, as you get into the neutrality, you realize there is no such thing, and so the breaking them, and busting out of them, kind of, it's the concrete of the stickiness that you break out of.
Well, one of the biggest reasons that I have always felt, and it's come clearer and clearer and clearer over these last 3 years for me, that I have referred to myself as a puzzle piece collector, is exactly the reason we're having this conversation. Because every single being, not just human, but every single being that I come in contact with is a piece of the puzzle of the all that is. Yep. And every single being carries their unique portion of the all that is. Codes, frequencies, proclivities, propensities, ideas, creative energies, and all of those are data. Yep. They are all part of the all, and by recognizing that each specifically unique singularity of the one is vital, like BZ said, necessary, needed, desired, because there are those codes and frequencies and all of this. I love to use a term that is from an old friend of mine and Lisa's from the Campfire Chat days. Ed Riverstone used to say that we are dancing each other awake. Yeah. And by with each other and experiencing and allowing all of these different thoughts, feelings to just wash over us. But if we're not shining them forth, they can't wash over us either. Yeah. So I think that's how we get into this, why is it taking so long? And, all of that sort of thing. Again, part of it is seeing and recognizing that each individual piece of the all that is puzzle has its own.
Well, when there's that holding pattern, that waiting, that, again, when I went back to that question of how are you encountering that? Why is it taking so long? Well, then that's a signal to you that there's some embracing of your own colors and light shining forth that you can step up to do. And because nobody's missing anything. There's nothing, you're not missing any instructions, you're not missing any manual, you're not missing any of that kind of stuff. But no one can do it for you. And, if you want to talk about a rule, that's more of a universal rule, in that you must give the permission to have it happen, because you are so powerful and you are so forthright and sovereign in your own ability that you oftentimes don't even realize that someone can't break that wall. So someone just said, well, wait a minute, everybody did all this stuff to us. Yes, because we were all complicit, because yes, in an unconscious way, you kept giving your permission to be in part of this thing. Yeah. Yes, that too. What about yes, that too, and that too, and that too? Because it's all of the same piece, how it works. And that's when some of those things that I just kind of talked to right there, that's where there's a challenge oftentimes, and that's where you start to see that, oh, okay, I'm holding that as an intellectual exercise instead of knowing of it. Because you could say, but you don't understand, or but not, surely not this piece, all the pieces.
Well, you just touched on something very specific there. Again, for me, as right this morning, I had a chance to catch David Lawrence Palmer, the Leo King's Deep Astrology for this week, and
Okay.
he was speaking specifically to the fact of that blocking that you were talking about.
Mm.
It is me blocking me at every turn, partially because of what Lisa was sharing in regards to that being a good little slave. Because that's a program that, even though intellectually I have the desire to extricate and put down and all of these things, it's still a program. And
Mhm.
there are bits, and that's too for me when Lisa was sharing about that dark little being sitting over in the corner that now I'm having a conversation.
Yeah. I could see you a minute ago. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
exactly correct though. I mean, and that's exactly it. That is part of that blocking, right? We see that and go, oh, I'm not so sure I want to. That's a blocking too. And
Exactly.
I want to say too that which again for me is no coincidences, like BZ said. Today actually is a favorable aspect between Mercury and Uranus, and Mercury is the all about the mind and the intellect, and Uranus is about the higher mind, and they are in a favorable aspect. So today, to have this conversation is
Oh,
the perfect.
the unity, man, it's just a fire. We lit this place up, people. We really did. I can see it everywhere now.
Well, you know, you just talked about that. It comes into the controlling mind, right? The slotting, the good little slave, that which
Right?
makes that, you know, can come into service to the higher mind. So it is helpful, and it's a valuable tool when it's coming forth in support, not
Use
leading,
properly.
not leading the way. And again, that's where if
Very
one
good
has a
point.
propensity for that, right? I
Uh-huh.
myself made a badass, terrible slave because, you know, I mean, you got kicked out of Sunday school and you know, for my whole life, that's right. So but at the same time, there was ramifications for that. You know, I was not in, you know, the cool group or however we do it in different ways. And so, but I kept choosing, well, I know where I'm supposed to be going. I have no idea what that means, but I know where I'm supposed to be going. I'm going over here, and yes, everybody's over there, and I'm, you know, but because I've tried that. I've tried the good little, you know, in your metaphor, the good little slave thing.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Follow
well,
the
this is
rules.
just the
Do what you're supposed
stupidest
to
thing
do.
ever. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that too, man. I
You
can
know,
relate to
if
that.
I'm going to feel miserable, I might as well feel miserable knowing where I know I'm supposed to be going instead of feeling miserable where I know I'm not
Thank
supposed to
you.
be here and I still feel.
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
right. And you know, I don't feel miserable anymore either, because that kind of left with the slave mentality. I have to say that resonated more over here than it does here. And does that mean mishaps and negative or sad or, you know, disturbing things don't swing past my screens? No. But the way that I feel about them is very, very different. And the way that they hit me is very, very different. And actually, I'm finding I'm able to influence, because I already am. I'm just aware now of my influence.
right.
And I'm in control of my influence. I choose what I wish to influence.
Right.
Because I understand how my energy works. And so I'm focusing on and expanding those things now, that because I got real sad for myself. I really did, for a long, long time, because I felt for a long, long time I was the only person who could see that things were out of whack around here. And at the time I was a small child, so it wasn't fraud and corruption, it wasn't systems. It was just interpersonal relationships. Humanity was doing this, and I couldn't figure it out. And there was no, I got lost again.
That happens to you. No worries. You were seeing how humanity was like this as a little child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let me jump
where was
it? Because let me jump in with mine, 'cause it was a little kid too, right? So what I was speaking was a long time ago when I was a little kid, where didn't know from the little thing the whole bigger picture, and I thought, well, this is easy to suss out. You know, I'm not quite getting this, and there is a feeling of miserable or left out or whatever, but I could feel the difference. Over here, I was supposedly with the group and all that kind of stuff, but I was miserable. Right? And here, I had, you know, I was feeling in touch with myself and moving in the right direction, although back then I probably would have described it a very different way. But I had the peripheral, the surface, the slave system miserable. And I thought, well, there's a piece of that miserable in both things, but the knowing, the going in the right direction was so strong here. Well, there seems to be that misery part that I got to learn how to deal with. Well, I'm going to choose this way, which was the going forth, right? Yeah. And I think that's where you were going too, about noticing the different things. And it's true, as you move out of that, there is no misery, there's just the knowing. And people say, well, that's a harder road, or you don't have as many friends, or do you know, if you notice, if you didn't play over there and played over here, you'd have more friends. I'm thinking, yeah, but I have trueness here.
Right.
And so
I don't need more friends. I need trueness.
Right.
And if I stick to my trueness,
the true friends is.
I attracted and pulled in more of that. Like Sheila showed up and you showed up, and I'm chucking and jiving with a whole group of people now that can play, right? So yeah, that's super important. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, I gotta say from my perspective that I honestly, even when, okay, Lisa says I showed up. Even when I showed up, even when Lisa showed, because BZ was very clear with me when we first started our conversations that I called her forth. And I think this is true for all of us. But I didn't get it. You guys both know I did not grok what you meant in regards to not only that, but also the frequential portion of it either, right? But I now very clearly see, sense, and feel that for a while, what I was developing was an intellectual exercise about what the two of you were referring to. I kind of got it. I thought I was getting it. I could talk about it real good.
And you needed to talk about it a lot. And I don't want to downplay that stage. That's a very, very important stage. It really is. Because I was there for years. So let's not dismiss it. It was for
Okay, well, thank you for that piece.
Go on, please.
Because I think you are correct in that.
No, absolutely. Yep. You're not going to own it if you can't even take it on as an intellectual exercise. Right. And hey, I took on a lot of things as an intellectual exercise. And in trying them on, I was like, oh, this doesn't fit at all. This is painful. And you know what? I'm done with that. And I could sort and sift that out immediately. That's how I operate. So you have to do that. It's important.
Thank you for that.
Then when you see something that works for you, then you really own it. And the more that you own it, like I'll see you doing that. All of a sudden, that's all you can talk about it. And it's just in every conversation with everybody, and it's just everywhere. Because you are integrating it, and you are calling forth or magnetizing those. So you have an answer, and those who have the matching question, like Jeopardy, you got to have the right question. They fly in so that you can continue to fine tune and hone your tone, right? Because as you do that, sometimes you're like, oh, that didn't feel right. And that leaves, that shakes out, right? But you hone it and then you own it, right? And pretty soon you just are it. And you don't need to preach it, but people will show up in your field if they have the question because you have the answer, right? And so it's just a magnetic thing. It's just a whoop, we match in that way. So that's also why it's super important to hone where your focus and attention is, because wherever that is, you're going to be some response to somebody's call somewhere. It's just how we work. It's how the universe brings you the actual physical tangibles for the experience that you are calling forth at all times through your focus and attention.
Which goes right back, Lisa, so freaking beautifully to this entire conversation and what BZ desired to bring forth. Because by doing that and only that and not worrying about any of the other is how each individual one of us are a piece of the big data reveal in the Great Awakening that we all know is taking place. And oh, wow, how beautiful that was put. Thank you so much for that. Each one
you highlighted too, Lisa, that it's funny, there's levels and layers. So, there's the Great Awakening, and depending if you're looking at the Q thing and stuff. So a lot of people who were looking at, exploring that, researching that, it's so interesting to see that there's so many layers to that phrase, the Great Awakening. Well, they didn't realize for a long time because there seemed to be sectors, right? There was groupings or neighborhoods or, right, and there were a couple Great Awakenings going on, but no, this is our Great Awakening, and that's something different, right? Well, yeah, on one level, on a very linear level, you could say, you bet they are absolutely very different things, because one is all-inclusive and one is just here. And so as we start to get that, we realize that, as with everything else, all those pieces, they kind of dovetail into the next. So you have the Great Awakening, which has, depending on what level that you're looking at it, has components of that until you get to the wider aperture that has all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's that. And wow. I just, yes. As each of us do embrace our true colors as they shine forth, it's so easy for me to see how, and that is why each and every being that chooses to move forward in these moments of now, regardless of the momentum or the area that they're moving in, they still, every single one, even through their own, and especially, not just even, but especially through their own perception filters, which is exactly how it's all set up to be, plays a very important role in each other's awakening. As I said before, or sometimes it's just a matter. I remember BZ, I think it was a 12-12 portal. It was a conversation that we had on a 12-12 portal, and I can't remember exactly what year. This is all running together now. Where Lisa and I were late joining because we had been somewhere and we took a wrong turn or whatever. And I remember you saying that our energy must have been required in that particular neighborhood. And I really took that on board from that moment. And I feel as though that relates entirely to this conversation, because it's not something you have to do, is what I'm getting to.
Right.
It's
It's how
just
you do.
being,
Yeah, being, that's it.
just being each of the singularities of the whole carry very specific and ever expanding and growing codes, frequencies that are desirous of.
Right.
And, you know, we've shared before what happened with Lisa and I and other folks, and my being able to physically see, sense, and feel folks receiving codes from Lisa first, and then me at a later time.
Yeah.
And
because the being, you know, in the example of going through the neighborhood, what we were talking about, right, where you were actually driving. So the being is, well, you were just in the car and you took a wrong turn. So you weren't necessarily doing anything. You were actually trying not to get lost, or why are we here? Kind of, right? So sometimes the being is just sitting in a chair. Now you can sit in a chair and be doing a lot of doing in that moment, that energetic envelope of being. So some people, it's happened a lot over the years. Well, you know, you're not understanding a verb and a noun. You're either being, and being is being, and you don't do anything. Okay, well, that's fine on the linear, polarized, you know, word spell thing. You bet. I won't argue with you on that at all. But I'm talking from the multidimensional, and so it's a frequency that you're carrying, and sometimes there's active frequency flow of that, and sometimes there's just the transmitting flow of that. So one example comes to mind that might help with that. So like in nose work, dog nose work, you can have the scent of something sitting, let's say, on a rock. Now, it's just sitting there. It doesn't have legs. It's not getting up and walking away per se, but the sun or the wind or whatever can interact with that, and then that becomes the beingness of whatever that scent is, becomes active in doing things. Or, you know, it can be something that's on a moving thing. So we can choose how we best want to, and this is where you do it consciously, is really makes all the fun and fantastical happen, because then you can choose in the moment how you want to best facilitate what it is you're being. Are you doing it on just a resting state, just a letting it flow state without any actual active things? And I'm not talking about getting up and running 100 miles an hour, because you could be active all of a sudden sitting perfectly still.
well, I got to tell you what came through for me the moment you said that. When you very first started speaking of that, what I saw was due solely to the fact that we are multidimensional and active in other realms all the time, simultaneously.
Yes.
Those frequencies with which each of the singularities carry. I already know that I am, you know, I have like 4 or 5 different aspects of myself that I'm aware of. I don't always experience them in these other realms, but I do experience them. And I know that they are doing and being things in these other realms constantly, all the time, even when I'm sitting still. So in this moment of now, I could be carrying the codes of that dashiki goddess that I integrated, and be transmitting those without my conscious knowledge. but there's a part of the other who is encountering my field, and they may not consciously be aware, but
Right.
that is something that could be coming through.
Yeah.
Well, you just gave a great kind of description of what the focus, the title, that nudge that came in as of this conversation, because you know, we're not small and we're not missing anything. We are multidimensional. In fact, our multidimensionality is showing all over the place, and we're absolutely not in linear or strictly linear anymore. Linear is a small, important component of what we are, but it's not front and center anymore. It's not the top of the list anymore. It's not even how, it's not framing and dictating how we play our own game in our own each individual reality anymore. It just simply is not. And so that's why it's about embracing our true colors, because these are coming through, and if we notice them instead of judging them or resisting them or getting head up about them or thinking, oh, well, that color there that's all, that's the best thing ever, and we look at that and focus on that to the exclusion of everything else within our color field, right, that we're emitting, we're not embracing it, we're not holding it.
Right.
Because what are we doing? We're bringing down the false construct. We're unwinding and unbinding all of this, which means that we're holding all of it back together. We're moving out distortions, we're releasing all of that, and we're bringing it all back together so that we can then implode it all and have that explosion of something completely new in a new vibrational landscape. And then what's in a landscape, right? Well, you could have desert landscapes, you could have ocean landscapes, you could have city land. So landscapes are different, right? And we choose to put them there, but we're building on a completely new frequency. If you're looking at planting metaphor, the frequency of the planting, the fertility and frequency of that bed, this huge field that we're creating right now, is different. Yeah. It's not a polarized, there's no polarized soil in there, right? There's not the sharp, polarity between right and wrong, good or bad, all those kinds of things. There's not, those components are not in the soil. So if you've ever grown anything, if you're missing certain things or have too much of another thing, only certain things can grow in that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing. We're bringing all of this down, cleaning all of that field up, and because we're not disappearing, we're moving forward,
right?
Transforming. Well, we're bringing that.
I have to say, I'm sorry. That was very good, BZ. So many movies came in for me while you were speaking on that. So many metaphors. There's the whole, this matrix is also created by bits and cells. Let's just, you could let's use the body metaphor, because I'm more familiar with the body than the machine. Okay, so each of us good slaves, those who are striving to follow all the rules and do as we were told, because we're rule followers, because we trust authority, and I'm speaking on a frame of mind here, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a game we can all play. So in that energetic, you have, what was I talking about?
You are a good rule follower.
Yes. But following the rules, no, there was the bigger picture. Sorry. Oh, poop. So many movies came in. Oh, yeah, right. And so in this metaphor that you brought in, BZ, for me, was of holding that as this matrix is also a body. It's a living thing that we have created. Okay, we, by emanating the whole, I need something external to prop me up right now. So all these external things then were created in answer to the frequency I was holding. Okay, all of the I's simultaneously created the collective. And it will come down as each cell stops emitting that, right? Like it's gonna respond because it's been in place for a super long time to the call, because that's how the universe works, responds to the call. So we as individuals, when we stop emitting the call, the matrix drops. So that's what's happening now. And the more of us that drop the call, right, and start emitting the truth of what is, like, I used to do this when I go into churches because I didn't want to worship, and it was such a problem for me. How do I show respect to the family and show up to the family reunion church thing, because it's a thing in the family reunion, and it means something to people, and it means something different to me, and I'm scared because I was kind of in that space for a second there. I don't want this thing feeding on me. I don't believe in worship. What am I going to do? I'm at odds. And how I made peace with that is I know the truth of me, and I know I'm not going into that building to worship nothing, because I have nothing to worship. And so I go into the building with the people who feel deep in their bones they need to worship. But that does not put me at conflict with these people. These people are my family, and they happen to subscribe to something. I don't, and I'm okay with that. So I go into the building and I emanate my knowing of who I be, which is all things. And I don't, and there's things being said, and there's songs that are very catchy that want you to sing along and disempower yourself if you believe the dialogue, right? And instead I silently counter the dialogue with the truth, and I just know it, and I don't say it to anybody, and I don't shame anybody for holding a different perspective. I just unabashedly hold my truth and my frequency. I be who I know I am. And in that moment, my influence might be very, very tiny, as I'm surrounded by others who are fiercely holding, and getting external help at this juncture to hold a certain specific frequency. And what I have noticed is the more that I fiercely do that, the more my external environment changes. And the more I've done everybody in that church a service by sitting in that room and just being who I know that I am, and doing what I feel called to do in every moment of now. And what I felt called to do was to sit in that room and love everybody equally instead of worshiping. I just loved us all that is, all those that think differently than me, and it's all me in the end. So it's just a whole lot of love. And when I hold that frequency and I do something, now I know that I'm adding to the influence of that which I desire, that where my heart is leading me, which is this community and this unity. And the more that I focus on it, the more that it expands. And it used to be a very, like, sitting in a church during family reunion would take me out for several weeks, I'm not gonna lie, because it was that hard on me to hold that frequency, because I wasn't as practiced as I am today at just holding and knowing, no matter what I am presented with, no matter what I am surrounded by that is trying to educate me otherwise, I just know. That's all. And now that knowing leads or builds up to, like, for instance, sometimes I wait. It's not a bad thing to wait. What I'm waiting for is the call from my heart, because I know I'm in a rhythm. I'm in a cycle with life, with the universe, with the planet, with a people. And when it's time, I emit the frequency of wanting something. And when the universe hears that call, I know it will be answered. So my waiting has a different flavor than waiting to see what my rulers decide, right? That's very different. This is me knowing I'm a creational being and I'm creating now consciously.
Well, right,
and then I'm gonna
right timing as opposed to waiting, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Divine timing. Yeah. Yes. When the time is right. And so I just know that. And I'm in that ebb and that flow. And I'm not in resistance to what is, because I know everything I do in this energy returns to me in this energy, right? And that is, I know who I am and I know what I want. And so I will have that. Boy, I don't know where that came from. But
I do. I know where it came from. The same place
my
that
fingers
this.
are icy now.
Well, I know where it came from. It came from the exact same place that this conversation came from, because this is the energetics on the planet right now. I feel I've been feeling it, seeing it, sensing it, and BZ put it into perfect language at the perfect moment.
Yeah, thank you, love. So appreciate that. Appreciate you for showing up.
You too, yeah.
I wanna go over here to our chat and just say I'm so grateful for you guys showing up. And Heather Hansen said, "Yay! I finally caught you guys live." And
Woo-hoo!
welcome, sweetie pie.
Yeah.
On Denmark showed up, but she said she had to go. She's got to go get her vitamin D. I agree with that. And absolutely, Avilia has shown up too. I don't know if Katie's still there, but if you are there and you would like to add something to the conversation, you would like to ask any one of us a question, now would be a great time. Anytime, actually, because I do periodically check the comments to see what anyone is saying. I know there's a bit of a lag, and you know, I think I saw earlier, oh, that was in my other live before. So, you know, I really appreciate this conversation and the time of it.
Yeah.
I want to say that. And I wanted to share with you, because I know that the two of you didn't see it. Katie is still here. Awesome. That and I want to share live with any of you that didn't see my live earlier. It is really an energetic. And I feel like another reason that you were inspired with this today, BZ, is that another energetic that is fast coming behind this one is, well, because you've said it so clearly so many times, BZ, and it's absolutely true. Choices, choices. It is all about the choices and some decision making. Even this, knowing, you know, for me, knowing that I have very specific colors to shine forth that are a piece of the data reveal.
Yes.
It's a choice. Do I want to step into it and allow it to just, you know, do its thing like I apparently planned from the very beginning? And I'm not, this is not a punitive thing either. If one chooses that it's not time for that, then it's not time for that.
Or they've changed their mind or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. It's all different.
But do it consciously. That's the only difference.
Right.
So you're consciously doing it instead of being pushed in one way or another, pulled in one way or another, or
being in denial of self.
I was going to say, or you know, I don't know, or denial, or well, that's different, or I could, you know, I'm small, that couldn't possibly be me, or I'll just wait until the plan unfolds and, you know, we get there, and then I'll armchair quarterback it in a way. Well, what the hell did they do that for? Well, okay, well, where were you? Right? So, I mean, everybody is an ingredient and everybody is essential. And so that's how if you give voice to something, then you have a voice in what unfolds. If you don't give voice to something, then you can still pipe the voice out, but it's not in the same frequency that is of the expansion overall.
Yeah. I wanted to share with you guys.
Why? Go back to your choice. You know what? Because you didn't choose it to be.
Right. I wanted to share with you. Katie just said, "I just love y'all. I'm really resonating with the conversation, especially about being a perfect little slave." And she said, "I was such a good one." I think we all have been, and like you said, Lisa, it's still very sticky, and which is why it's important. I feel the portion of our conversation where we talked about the intellectual exercise and the speaking of it, the conversations, which again, not lost on me as to why I chose the title of this channel to be Conscious Conversation Central, because it is through, I've shared this with Lisa before. A lot of times, Lisa has been such a great listener because my process, apparently, and all of our processes are different. That's the whole idea. But mine is to talk it out. Apparently, I have to hear myself say things and talk about things and wrestle with things out loud sometimes to get from that intellectual exercise to the alchemical epiphany, which, believe you me, is a very
and I've seen it happen. I've seen you say the words and get it. Like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. It's important step. It's okay that we all are, it's like a baby. You never really upset with babies for the speed at which they develop. You marvel at everything and you think, oh, how fast they are. So I'm really trying to give myself that same courtesy and everyone else around me. We're all brand new drivers around her. Okay. So if we could just cut ourselves a little bit of slack and have fun with it, I mean, then what could we do? I don't know. Let's find out.
Well, and that's where the noticing as opposed to labeling or judging or, so if you can notice within yourself and hold that open-hearted space for yourself, and for some things that's particularly hard, so then focus it, notice it for them and hold that for them, then give that same reciprocal energy flow to you. None of what we've talked about, unless one that's kind of a channel that they're in, none of what we've talked about today or ever would fit as well, but specifically today, is about, getting there first or doing it right, or the only way. It's not about any of that. It's about because you're the only expert for you. And as you realize that, as you stand in that, as you firmly claim and own the fact that you are the only expert for you, then in this moment, if you're choosing, I'm not certain, so I'm just gonna look around a little bit. That's perfect. And in the very next instant, you can say, all right, now it's time to go. I'm gonna do this, right? That's perfect. And the only caveat, if there is one, is now the frequencies, and you is the frequency, is asking you to do that consciously. Because if you're not choosing to do it consciously, then you've set it up for yourself that those distortions on your frequency and the pure whole frequency of who you are, you will have called forth something into your experience to buff, polish, lightly shine, jackhammer, blow up, whatever it is, those distortions off. So the only difference that is not a subtle difference at all, it's quite demonstrable and very powerful, is that this is the moment where you do it consciously. And if you're still choosing because you're the expert for you, great. That's great. But there's power to your choosing. And so, because you absolutely wanted to make certain that you could step into the truth of who you are, even if there was a distortion that was covering it, blinding it, right? Shading, obfuscating those things, and you were thinking, oh, it's easier to do this, or just be smaller or quiet, whatever it is. And you allowed that. You're so good. You're so spectacular at what you do, and being able to see and have all of the possible scenarios mapped out. And of course, you're eternal, so those possibilities are limitless. That you made it very simple. Now I'll have the point where I can still absolutely choose, and I'll get to where I want to go by my choosing, my expert. And one will be the conscious direct route from the way that each individual holds it, and one will be the unconscious one. But I've built those, each being has built those different things in to rub off those distortions so you get to where you want to go. But it's not punitive, it's not, but you did it because you know how to do all that.
Well, exactly. That's what I was speaking on before in regards to knowing that I set all of this up for myself. Mm-hmm. That is for me personally, that is a very empowering knowing, because I went from, oh my gosh, this has been done to, the stuff that a lot of people have had, abuses, rape, gun to my head, knife at my throat kind of action, because that's the kind of thing that we've all of us have had, believe you me. And I could sit in that very disempowering spot of feeling that had been done to me, which is true on one tiny aperture of perspective. But from that more expansive viewpoint, and for me, a much more powerful viewpoint, more empowering viewpoint, was I set all of that up for very specific purposes, reasons that went into the totality of what I now carry with me on board within all of my different bodies, my frequential bodies, for moving in these moments of now. And I see that as very much what you're speaking there on BZ, in that specific thing. For me personally, I wanted to say that Kevin Westring popped up into the house and said, "Hey, ladies." And Katie was saying that, that it was still hard for her at times, still having to go to the JOB every day. And I know that, BZ also has that JOB, that we refer to there. So I get that, but, well, I can't really speak to that. So that would have to be something that BZ would speak to. But Katie went on and said that she loved the way BZ spoke about frequency. You choose to do things. What frequency you choose to do things, that is huge when still living within the system. And she actually said she needs to focus on that more. So I think that's,
you're in the system but not of it, and that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So, I've got to run off in a minute here. Part of me is watching the time because I have to go.
Okay.
Go back.
You have to go back to the JOB.
Go back to the JOB, right? And I also I've got multiple jobs that I do. One is this, and another part of the expansion, and then one is the linear job, right? And so I hold it in a way that is a noticing and a flowing through it. And I could sometimes play just on a, if I look at this just from a linear thing, well, yeah, that's playing, but I don't choose to do that. I can choose to do that because it's instructive for me on something. It's helping me see where there's a distortion I want to clean up. It's a great moment of something that seems like an annoyance or a frustration whenever that's, as I integrate that, I can go, wow, I'm so grateful that showed up, because I don't want that piece stuck in me anymore. I can't go where I want to go and be the full truth of who I am. I've got that burr in me. So again, it's, in every moment, if we have that feeling of, well, it's hard and you don't understand. And yeah, I get that a lot. And sometimes I have the frustration of, I seem to have done all these things so someone can say, but you don't understand that part. And yeah, no, I had to experience that too, just so I can, but it's that choosing. When you're in that moment, maybe it's just one moment of a day in the linear construct of it, or it's a whole day, half day, however it is. How are you choosing? And are you doing consciously? And if in that moment, this is where the thing people think, well, they have to only be light, fluffy bunnies. In that moment, you're choosing, well, I'm just pissed off right now. This linear, I'm just 5 minutes here. I'm going to get right in, and I'm going to be seriously pissed off, right? Not at anything per se, but just in fully feeling that. And when you dive into it, and it could be, insert whatever other emotion or frequency that you want to hold. But then you can integrate it. You can see, okay, well, what's in me? What am I looking at? How am I feeling? What am I encountering? What part of it? Because only you is there. You brought that aspect, if we're talking about the linear job, just as the metaphor, you brought that aspect to come forth to you, to have this conversation with you, to show you this thing, to experience this thing. It's data. And so how are you going to allow your data points to reveal how they meet that? You're not at the mercy of anything. Everything is at the behest of you. You're a kick-ass creative being. You just have to get over it.
Too true. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
Well, BZ, I want to thank you for taking the time. As I know this was your break. BZ's on the West Coast, and so she must leave us now and go back to her JOB, the linear JOB. But that's a very good point. We were speaking before about the just being and yet doing things in other realms. And I would like to say this to all who have those JOBs. That is something that you're carrying with you throughout that JOB as well. These things that you may or may not be participating in other realms, they are also part of your overall frequency that you're bringing to the table as you go about that linear JOB. And so we can extricate ourselves. Oh, wow, this feels huge. We can extricate ourselves from being a slave and yet still be in a linear JOB.
Yes, absolutely. It's a choice.
It's a choice. That's
Bring
correct.
all of you with you to the job.
That's right. In every moment of now. And I know for a fact that Kevin Westring does that too. I know for a fact that Kevin Westring does that too, because he has a JOB, and we've had many conversations with Kevin Westring, and I can just feel, and he can feel right now that I'm feeling him. I don't know why that is. I've got a really good connection with Westring, and he knows that I speak the truth on that. So, and that's the truth for all of us in every moment.
And that goes back to, embracing your true colors as they shine forth. Quit being small. Quit couching your language and because, well, they don't understand. Be you. This is what's being asked of each of us. This is what we agreed to do, is to shine and embrace our shining of that. And you may do it in slightly different ways where you are, or what, maybe a certain part of work or certain beings at work, whatever it is, but nonetheless be you. Because the greatest compliment that you can give yourself and every others will give you, is where there's, maybe they don't quite understand it, there's a little scratch in your head, but there's just something different about that being. And I'm not saying be argumentative, I'm not saying, obviously make yourself small to get along. It's none of that. It's just be you. And what you'll realize is that it changes everything in the JOB, because you've stopped thwarting you. You're the only one who can do that. There's no one powerful enough to thwart you but you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there will be a link in the show more section of this video to BZ's conversation with Jeannie, although I haven't seen it yet, but it does sound like it's a perfect companion to this conversation. There will also be a link to the deep astrology that the Leo King put out today. Well, actually, he put it out on, he goes live on Tuesday nights, and I think he's still live. Anyway, but it's always out on Wednesday morning. And I really feel like that also pertains to this conversation. And so I want to thank you both so much for coming and spending what is now, like I said, I realized Conscious Conversation Central's 3rd anniversary, and give a shout out to everyone who has watched any one of these videos and participated in the envelopes, as BZ likes to say, of these conversations. You have added your unique portion of you to my overall puzzle, and been a part of my own big reveal of me to me. And I'm ever so grateful to all of you. And you two in particular, I have to say. Oh my goodness. And I want to thank all of you that showed up in the chat room. Kevin Westring, Katie Hasso. Yes, Kevin said we communicate with each other physically and then connect psychically, and then connect in the physical. We do that a lot, he and I. Like and subscribe Conscious Conversation Central, if you will, if you have not already. And also, if you're watching this on BZ's channel, the Quantum Playground, do the same. Come over and subscribe here at Conscious Conversation Central. And if you're not subscribed to BZ's channel, again, there is a direct link to her channel in every video that she appears in on my channel. Well, since I realized that I should do that so they could make it easier to find you. So go there and make sure you subscribe to her as well, because we do videos separately. So if you're only catching the 3 of us on BZ's channel, you're missing other conversations that BZ's not part of on Conscious Conversation, and vice versa, because BZ also has other conversations. And I love your Fear versus Knowing series, and I'm actually going to be connecting a playlist so that folks can find that series specifically on Conscious Conversation Central. It'll just take you directly to her channel. So what else did I want to say? Was there something I left out, ladies? Anything I left out?
I think you covered all the...
Anything either one of you would like to add before we leave?
Oh, thank
Shine
you.
forth.
This is a lot of fun. Shine forth. I love that.
Yeah, shine forth. Reveal your data pieces. Know that you have data pieces. I love that. And I'll just say one final thing. I am feeling into doing a live intuitive reading session tonight, so don't hold me to it, but if you're around and you want to kick around and see what's shaking, look for that. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.